Hello, I'm Dr. Lisa College and welcome to Culture by Neurodesign. I'm really delighted to be joined today by Stephen Puri. As you will hear imminently from Stephen, he's in the middle of a fascinating career. It's taken him from Hollywood films to tech startups, and he's picked up a lot of lessons and tips along the way about how people work productively together. So Stephen, welcome.
It is wonderful to be here, Doctor. Thank you. I hope we have some engaging stuff to share.
I hope so too. Well, if not, we can throw this recording away and it doesn't need to air. But I don't think that will be. I don't think that will be the case.
Oh,
but,
the bar has been set. Okay.
I wanted to ask you if you'd kick us off, please, by introducing yourself. Tell our listeners something about said fascinating career.
The fun thing about me is not like, oh, I have two eyes and I walk, but it's rather this specific thing that's somewhat unique to me, which is I've been a senior executive at a couple of motion picture studios in Los Angeles, and I've also raised over $20 million of venture capital and run 3 companies, 1 to a successful exit and 2 to failure. And that path has yielded some interesting insights, both into myself. It's how I learned about my dyslexia, my ADD. Doesn't really present as hyperactivity, but that ADD thing, and also just about tips witnessed firsthand of really high performers. And that's a lot what I share these days, is the things that I've learned at the circus.
Great. Well, I think we will indeed not need to throw this discussion away. I'm sure it's going to be interesting. Go on, tell us some of the films that you worked on.
Okay, so I got into film in sort of a backdoor way, in that I went to the University of Southern California in LA, and my parents were both engineers at IBM. So when I was young, I knew how to code. I was like a little code monkey when I went to school. But at USC, a lot of my friends were in cinema TV. It happened to be when I was there, that's when computers became powerful enough to manipulate film. So suddenly there was this blossoming industry in digital film. It's when you saw like non-linear editing systems like Avid, sound editing like Pro Tools, and Silicon Graphics made hardware to do graphics for the big screen. Suddenly you could do thousands of pixels, 24 frames a second. And I knew how to speak engineer because I'd been one. I made money working at IBM as a junior software engineer for college, but I also had a pretty good creative vocabulary, having seen a lot of films with friends and buddies in the dorm who were all cinema TV students. So that's how I got into film. I fell into that because that industry blew up in Los Angeles. I was in the very small group of people that could speak both languages and produce digital effects. So I worked on about 14 movies doing digital effects, were titles from Jim Cameron's True Lies, David Fincher's Seven, Braveheart with Mel Gibson and Immortal Beloved. I worked with Woody Allen on Sweetland Film stuff, Jim Jarmusch on Dead Man, and then happened to go and work with this director and producer who had done this sci-fi movie called Stargate on their next film. And that turned out to be Independence Day. So I produced the digital effects for Independence Day. We won the Academy Award for the visual effects, which is really cool. The entire team, very proud, and a rising tide lifts all boats. So I started my first company with Roland and Dean. We became very close. That was the director, writer, producer of Independence Day. And we sold that company 4 years later, which was a really nice exit in my late 20s. When you think you're smarter than you are and better looking than you are, like all that. So I was like, oh, wow, I sold my first company. This is really great. And then I decided to use that entree of being in digital effects, part of the film that's digital, producing that, into how could I help make an entire film, like become a senior executive at a studio. So I got on that ladder because I'd met a lot of people doing this. And then that's when I worked my way up. And the end of your answer is, so then as a studio executive, not as someone, working on a piece of the film, I was a vice president at 20th Century Fox, where I ran like the Die Hard franchise and the Wolverine franchise and a bunch of stuff like that. And I was an executive vice president at DreamWorks for Kurtzman Orsi, who are 2 great writers there. Who that was the Transformers 1 and 2 era, Eagle Eye, Star Trek 11, Fringe, the TV series, Hawaii Five-0, the TV series, Transformers Prime, the TV series, a bunch of stuff like that. So that was kind of my film career. And then I got back into tech after that. I was like, I want to go make things.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's super
interesting.
fun. And
Yeah.
let me be super clear. There's a lot of that sounds more glamorous than it is, because,
I'm
like, for
sure.
example,
Yeah.
being executive on Die Hard 5, you from the outside, it's like, oh my God, you're on set, or you're doing this, you're going to premieres or whatever. But the reality is, you're just the guy or girl there to sort of shepherd the studio franchise. 5 years before me, there was someone else doing Die Hard 3 or 4. Like, after I left, Wolverine was being made by someone else. So you're in many of these studio franchises, you're just kind of the seat filler for a while, making sure the trains run on time. It's not like a heroic kind of job, even though it's a pretty fun one and it pays well.
Yeah. Interesting. Cool. I know now you're doing something a bit different, but we'll get onto that, I think, during the course of the podcast. But I want to ask you about something that you said when we talked before. It was something that I really loved.
Oh, you were listening. Ooh,
I was, and I
how
remember
flattering.
as well.
Okay. Bring
I
it.
know, occasionally I do listen and remember. But the thing that I'm thinking about that you said was that the way to make sure that you work effectively with groups, any group of people, is to know yourself first. And that's where I'd like to start. Like, if you would describe your working style, what you really love doing, what you find easy, what you really struggle with, like what would you describe your working style?
Oh, that's an interesting question that I don't get a lot. So one of the things that I've learned is that I really enjoy distributed teams.
Okay.
Like, I've spent enough time where the mentality was, we must all exist under these fluorescent lights for 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and see each other at the water cooler sort of thing. And I've done that. And there's an upside to it, which is you do have funny, silly conversations and jokes around the office of who wore what.
Yeah.
There's a huge upside to being there, right? But I did realize that my particular working style is one where I'm very comfortable working with people around the world, because, like, when I started my second company, I was like, oh, there's an amazing designer in Dubai. I can work with him. Like, I don't have to work with people who live 20 miles from our headquarters. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a great software engineer in Montreal, let's work with her. Like, that sort of sensibility, that started to feel very comfortable for me. And I really enjoyed that. Turned into working from home. Like, my wife and I, she's a senior executive at a bank here in the United States. We both work remotely and have really embraced it. Now, I realize that the flexibility that comes with, because I do, this, I go to the gym early in the morning, and it helps just get my blood flowing, get my brain thinking. And I recognize I have a really lucid sort of 2 or 3 hours after that, where I can do the stuff that may seem hard at 3 p.m. Like, oh, I really want a blog post about something meaningful. That's when I do it. Oh, I really need to figure out that bit of code that wasn't compiling yesterday or when I was working last night. That's when I do it. So that kind of flexibility to work that way is really great. It does come with some problems. For example, the community that I run, the focus community, there are a number of people who are neurodivergent. There are some ADHD coaches. One of them I become friends with. She's the one who told me, Stephen, after knowing you a year or two, I think you should get tested, like medically tested, because I think you're one of us, right? And she was absolutely right. That's the reason that I went, because she said, you exhibit these sort of symptoms around, you kind of like try to multitask, you get distracted by working on different things. You have described kind of hyper focus. It seems like you do that, like things like this. Yeah. She's like, I'm not a medical doctor, I'm just a coach, but go talk to someone. And indeed went to a medical doctor. They're like, yeah, you do have it. It doesn't really present as hyperactivity, but you do have a lot of the challenges of a certain kind of neurodivergence, and also really understood my dyslexia. So I really like speaking to you this way. I really have to concentrate that the syllables and the words come out in the order that I think that they will come out.
All good so far.
So I know, pretty good. And plus, you've edited out 14 things that made no sense. People at home were like, what got edited out? This is fascinating. I want to hear the outtakes. So I kid. I'm joking. She hopefully hasn't edited this out yet.
It's not a film. We're not going to edit it. We're going to be fine. We're just going to
this is going to be great. That's so reassuring, doctor. Thank you. So those are things I learned about myself in terms of like my chronotype. Oh, in the morning, I'm very good at this. In the afternoon, I'm better at this sort of thing. Some of that, I'll tell you, came from when in film, there's a famous writer, Ron Bass, who wrote My Best Friend's Wedding and Rain Man and all these star roles, right? He famously or infamously wouldn't talk to his family in the morning. I'm not the dad who's going to be like, hey, who wants pancakes? Did you do your homework? Need to read out of school? He said, when I start talking to you, I can no longer hear my character's voices clearly. And that's where I get paid $1 million, $2 million a script to do, is write those words that Julie Roberts goes, those feel authentic to my character, or Dustin Hoffman or Tom Cruise. I mean, the people who started his movies, they get offered the best material in Hollywood. And they've chosen this stuff because those words are so good. This absolutely is what my character would say, and it's the best version of that, and I want to say it, right? Yeah. So his family's, by all reports, fine with it. They're like, Dad, go make $2 million. We won't talk to you before 9. Go do your thing. And that was really interesting to me, as my first sort of brush with someone who is self-aware about their chronotype, saying hey man, I've got to bucket this. I think for him it was 5 to 9 a.m. or 6 to 9 a.m. He was like, that's character voice. I can write dialogue. You could do in the afternoon, you could do what we call, story breaking, which is sitting there and going, oh, Lisa, I don't know what happens at the end of the third act. It feels like it's kind of weak there or something, You do collaborative kind of work. But that was, again, just one of those little bits of self-knowledge. So back to you. That was a long speech.
No, that's what we're here for. Now I know that Roald Dahl worked like that as well, right? He had very clear and fixed blocks of time that he worked in his writing shed, and I think it was do not disturb Roald Dahl during those moments, otherwise it would be terrible. I hope I'm remembering that correctly. I might be mixing him up with somebody else with the do not disturb.
I believe you're correct about that. Yes.
I think there was a block, right, and it wasn't actually that long. You'd think for how prolific he was, that he would have spent more hours a day writing, but I think it was only 2 hours or 3 hours in the morning and 2 hours in the afternoon, and he'd have a little nap in between.
Touching upon something close to my heart. Yeah. So we could talk more about that.
We will. So I mean, with the example that you gave about not talking to people in the morning, you don't want to interrupt with the characters' voices. This is a huge amount of self-awareness, right? And just knowing how someone does their best work. I'm really curious, when you discovered your dyslexia and your ADD and you learn more about it, did that uncover more understanding of how you work well and how you don't work well? Did it affect how you work now?
It didn't seem like a random coincidence that I developed a flow state app to help me focus, to help others focus. Oh, weird. So yeah, I think there is definitely in my life now a lot of coherence around the things that I need to solve for myself and the things that I offer other people, and I think there was a period of time in film when that was also true. I was like, oh, I'm trying to understand the world around me. I'm in my 20s or 30s. And, a lot of how we understand the world and we express our understanding is through character stories. Let me tell you about a character who faced a problem and this is how she or he dealt with it. And that was very meaningful for me then. Now it's meaningful for me more is, I've learned how, like what you just described, I've learned how to say, I'm gonna have this really focused time from 7 to 9 a.m., 7 to 10, and achieve a lot. Take a meaningful break to recharge myself, and then have a focused time in the afternoon and do what I used to do at 8 or 10 hours in maybe 5 or 6 tops. And that is just, and so many smart people have come before us. It's like Newton said, we can stand on the shoulders of giants. It's there. The knowledge is there. I just thought it was kind of unrealistic to say, go read the 12 great novels, or not great books on this, the tomes on this, to learn it. I just thought, what if I reviewed all of those and then tried to make it all into one thing, just a big play button where you could hit that in the morning and it kind of helped you get there. And that's what I use. That's what I was using right until this meeting.
Wow, great. And you got here on time, so something about it is working.
Okay, you want to laugh? So that we're going to talk, I know, about flow states and stuff, but this morning, I don't know that I was in a flow state, but I was kind of focused and getting stuff done with the knowledge that there was a meeting coming. And we have had in Sukha enough people, usually engineers, by the way, say, oh my God, I missed my stand-up. I missed my meeting because I just got into this flow state with your app and whoops, right? So that we allow people now to connect their Google Calendar.
Okay.
And it will give them a notice 5 minutes before a meeting saying, hey, you should wrap stuff up because you have a meeting in 5 minutes, right? For that very reason that you don't have to hold in your memory an awareness of, I had that meeting in 16 minutes, I had a meeting in 11 minutes. It's just, you can just flow with the knowledge that when there's a meeting, it'll just say to you like, hey, better get ready to see doctor.
Yeah. So how did you condense 8 or 9 hours into 5 or 6 hours? What did you do?
You know, I'll tell you what it is going back to self-knowledge, I found the things that are really problematic for me. And maybe some people playing along at home or in their car will nod their head with this, which is I found I had a couple of problems. One I call the cold start problem, which is, Lisa, tomorrow morning at 9, I'm going to get going after I write this blog post or whatever I have to do, right? Yet tomorrow morning at 9:15, I'd find myself still kind of like returning some emails that maybe are not top priority, or, you know, scrolling at 9:30 and not getting going in time. And when I looked at that, I was like, I'm losing half an hour in the morning. It came down to, you know, I feel overwhelmed. Either I looked at my task list and I was like, there are 17 things on there. I don't know how I'm going to get them all done. They all need to get done, but it's kind of paralyzing to look at that list. Or there's something on there that's stupid big, where I'd written down like, you know, revise the website, write my book, or, you know, something where you're just like, I'm not going to make a dent in that. And it's, again, that feeling of like, why start? It's overwhelming to even think about that thing. So that was something I thought about. How do we solve that? We came up with a little smart assistant that when you start your day, can hide the 14 other things. So you just see those 3 that are your top priorities. And I found it much less paralyzing to just look up and go, oh, I can get that done. And our members actually are 77% more probable to finish all 3 things than before, when they would finish 2, when they saw that daunting list. Because remember, I like to multitask, which I know is not a thing. It's not a real thing to multitask. It's just context switching with monotasking, right? But I would do that of like, oh, I have an idea for this thing. Let me go over and write that down. Oh, but I should go back to that code thing I was writing. That blog post, right? So that sort of thing was not good. So that cold start thing in the morning was a problem. And the other one was, I mean, a couple other ones, is that I would find that dopamine addiction presented in me where I would come up against something I was doing that was then difficult. Oh, Lisa, the thing I'm trying to compile isn't compiling. The website's not working today. Oh, the blog post, this paragraph sucks. I need to rewrite it, but I'm not really inspired to do it. It would be that little block, and my hand, muscle memory in my hand, without thinking, would just pick up my phone to be like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to scroll for a minute or two. You know, just think about it in the back of my mind, all the, you know, stupid lies I would tell myself. And then it was never a minute or two. I'd look up and like half an hour had gone by. So same thing was true of websites. Like sometimes I would open CNN or I'd open, you know, something. I'm not really a big sports guy, so I wasn't really opening like ESPN. But like there are a couple sites I would open just to like, let me just think for a moment. And boom, 15 to 30 minutes gone. So how did I find a way to finish? Like when you're talking about the Roald Dahl thing, like it's that thing of just saying, hey man, can I put up some simple guardrails? Because I know myself. When I open a website now that I've labeled distracting, a little pop-up just goes, it seems like CNN is, you know, distracting you. And I have one moment of deciding who I want to be. If I want to go on CNN, I can just click the modal away and keep on it, right?
Yeah.
But it's that moment of like, do I want to be the guy who's done at 3, or do I want to be the guy who's at 6 o'clock still kind of grumpy and not done, you know? And it's those little moments that really, it's those little guardrails that give me that choice during the day, because there's so many forces that make beautiful notifications. Check your WhatsApp, you know, your friends are messaging you, check your Instagram, or there's a new TikTok video to watch. And it's really, really beautifully designed to make sure you don't do anything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now I know when, especially when I get tired, right? It's easy to kind of think, oh, this isn't interesting. Oh, I'll just do that. It'll just take me a minute. Oh, look, so somebody sent me a message on my phone, and then you kind of lose track, and 2 hours have gone by.
Totally with you.
It takes an enormous amount of discipline to to work in the way that you're talking about it, to be very task focused and to finish things off before you go to the next thing, and to say
And
no
I
to
needed help.
or whatever.
I would,
Yeah.
doctor, I'd love to tell you I'm not disciplined. I'm not. And I had to admit that to myself and go, you know what? I just need something where when I pick up my phone, I have a little smart assistant that says, Stephen, you really need to be on your phone. And I get that 1 second of choosing, who do I want to be? And I really want to be a guy at 3:00. It's like, I feel great. Like I crushed it. And like, let's go for a walk, see if Laura's available. Like, you want to go for a half-hour walk and just like clear our minds? Like those guardrails of opening a website and the little reminders being like, do you really need to be here? The thing of saying like, monotasking. Monotasking is magical. But I needed the guardrail of like, don't let me look at all 17 things I could do because I'll jump around,
Yeah. Yeah. It's I mean, when you mentioned that you took it 8 or 9 hours and you condensed it down to 5 or 6 hours with some good practice, I mean, the question that immediately sprang to mind is also about discipline. Like, if I can condense my existing work into 5 or 6 hours, there'll just be more work that I want to do, right? So I can add on more work, which I love what I'm doing. So it's like, oh, great, I've created some space and put some more work in. Like, how do you
tell you how to use your extra time? I'm not here to pretend to allocate time to what, but I did find that there are simple ways. Again, the smart people have written great books and experiments and thought experiments and research on, hey man, if you want to get back in control of your day, here are 5 things to do. They're there. And that's basically what I do, is just package them all into a play button, because like, I need help.
That's a trick, isn't it? I think. I mean, you're right. We probably all know these things that we should do, right? We should turn off all of the notifications that pop up on our screens from our emails and from our WhatsApps and whatever. And we should probably disable YouTube during the day and only look at LinkedIn 15 minutes in the morning and whatever. But we don't do them.
It's funny about that. Yeah.
We all know it. We're all smart and we're all too busy, and we know that we need all the time and the focus that we can get, but we still don't do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, Huberman did a great episode on digital dopamine and how we're the first generation that has 0 effort dopamine. I don't actually need to do anything, write an amazing blog post that you're like, oh, Stephen, that's so brilliant. I feel good and I get that little rush. I can pick up my phone and there's an endless scroll of like cool videos to watch and funny things, and it's 0 effort. So how do you combat that when you're like, okay, what am I going to do with my life when I kind of can just sit here on the sofa and get dopamine delivered to my brain, you know?
It's 0 effort and it's usually 0 return.
It is 0 return.
It's a real problem. I mean,
I'm with you. I have a very strong thesis that we all have something great inside us. And the question of this lifetime is, are you going to get it out or not? And there are enough trillion-dollar companies whose business model is straight up steal your life, period, full stop. And it's in their S1s, it's in their quarterly reports. Like, they don't feel like they need to hide it anymore. Like Zuckerberg, Elon, Evan, like these guys, they are talking on their quarterly shareholder, calls about, here's what we're doing to try and take more people's lives. And it's an amazing value proposition. If I were Mark Zuckerberg and I called you up and I was like, so Dr. College, I would like your life. And I'm going to sell it to this advertiser. I'm going to keep the money, but I'll give you some dancing cat videos. Is that a cool trade for your life?
God, it sounds like an episode of South Park.
But it's exactly what's going on.
It's actually not inaccurate, is it?
It used to be 10 years ago, Zuckerberg would go to Congress, in my country, and just lie and obfuscate and be like, oh, well, we're just, and that era is over. Now they're completely upfront. They're like, yes, we have $1 trillion to go buy the smartest behavioral psychologists, put them on staff, the smartest engineers, the smartest designers, and give them the goal, steal a little bit of 1 billion people's lives. And tomorrow, steal a little bit more. And if you do that, you will be rewarded with generational wealth. Like, your grandchildren will not need to work if you can just help us steal 1 more second of 1 billion people's lives. And they're absolutely upfront about it now. So when you think about that tug of war, and on one side, you have trillion-dollar companies paying the smartest people on earth to steal your life. And on the other side of that rope, it's you alone trying to do something with your life. Trying not to be that 80-year-old woman or guy on the sofa scrolling and double tapping, being like, well, I could have been somebody. I could have written that book.
Yeah.
I could have started that company.
If it wasn't for the dancing cat videos, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't want to be that person. And guess what? No one wants to be around that person. It's like, I could have been somebody. I just, I really enjoy my TikTok. I really enjoy my Facebook groups, my LinkedIn scrolling, And those companies are very happy to be like, just stay here. Just keep giving us your life.
Yeah.
Don't write the next great novel. Don't create that company, because that takes you away from us selling your life to advertisers, and we need it. We need money.
Sounds
and
absolutely terrifying when you describe it like that.
It's straight up. The thing is, 5-10 years ago, they would hide behind all this language around what they were doing. And now they feel so empowered. They're like, absolutely, this is our business model. And the more we can steal your life, great. The fact you're not going to write the great novel, you're not going to paint the great thing, you're not going to start the great company, we don't care. We just need you to stare at our app a little bit longer today. So I needed guardrails. TikTok is my weak spot, just so you know.
Right.
That algorithm, from the time I picked it up, it knows I like weird aviation videos. When I was a child, we used to fly, and I remember, like, it's just ingrained in me. There's something magical about this huge steel thing in the sky.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, the first day I picked up TikTok, I don't know how it knew, but it was like, hey, you ever want to see like how an Airbus A380 works, internally? And I was like, I do. I will give you 10 minutes of my life if you can tell me that. And then after that, it's like some weird, dance video. I was like, oh, I love Latin dance. And then it's just like amazing. And if I pick that up, my day is gone. And I needed something. Wow. The moment I pick up my phone and be like, oh, this code is hard, I'll just scroll, needs something to go, Steven, who do you want to be? And I'm like, yeah, you know what? I don't want to be the 6 o'clock grumpy dude.
All right. We're not going to be the 6 o'clock grumpy dude. We're going to get back to productivity tools and high performance and succeeding in what we want to do with our lives, and not watching dancing cat videos.
So inspiring. Okay, you got me.
You've worked with people in like different industries, different countries, different neurotypes, different gender, different. You've worked with people in person, people virtually, whatever, right? And you have a great tool which gives them productivity tips to make the most of their working time. Do you see differences in the way that the productivity tips are used between all of these different types of people, virtual or in person, different parts of the world, different industries, or is it all the same?
I'll tell you a couple interesting things that I've noticed. So one thing is, I used to be in film, right? So I have a lot of friends who used to be in film, some that are still there. If you had asked me 10 years ago, hey, who's going to be like the breakout superstar of this friend group of, the 1,000 people you know and work with, right? I would have picked wrong 10 years ago, because I would have chosen based upon raw talent. The Austin Film Festival was recently here, so I had some friends who were in town with premieres of their shows and, films or whatever. So a couple of people are like, hey, if you are in town, come down. And I'll tell you this, the ones that were there with premieres, they were the ones that were tenacious, not the ones that were the most talented. They were the ones who could take no. And it's funny because the ones that we all were like, oh my God, that's an amazing writer, or this guy's short film is just insane, or that girl is they're gone. They're not working in film anymore. But the ones that were kind of okay, they worked hard. They had a habit of improving, of just every no was okay, what can I do to get slightly better? What can I learn from this pass? Okay, so my character writing needs to be better. Oh, my dialogue needs to be better. Oh, I'm not really good with action scenes. And they would work on that. And those are the ones that are successful. So I found that was a greater predictor of success than talent, which I would have been wrong about 10 years ago. And that leads me to the second point I was going to make, which is habit. As I've noticed, because now we have thousands of people who are in, Sukha, the website. And The ones that really perform are the ones that just have a habit. I see certain crew, like when I get online in the morning around 7-ish, right? I see these people that are all in there, they're working. I can't physically see them, right? But I see them online. We're all in kind of group chat. They're there. I see the people who work in the evenings. They're the ones that have developed a habit to say, I'm going to do this day over day to make something work because they have their eye on the prize. And the ones that sort of like drop in and out are gone. They never stick. And I think about that because, I mean, as you and I talked about when we first met, I'm having my first child in now 8 weeks. And I have thought a ton about what is the world that Laura and I are handing off to them. We'll be gone someday, and they will be living in the world very influenced by the decisions that my generation made.
Yes.
And it is imperative that, at least with our children, Laura and I view it as they understand the power of habit, which of course many people have spoken out very well, the Cubbies, and I mean, there are tons of people near and so this is not a new thought, but it is one that rings more loudly in my head than ever before. And I do offer that for those who are, playing at home right now, or, driving in the car and listening to this and kind of like, well, what do I glean from, how do I take something actionable and practical from this? That's really high on the list of what I've seen as the determinant of success. Even some of the best like engineers, designers that I've met, the ones who are the most successful, the ones that just have that habit of like, tomorrow I'm just going to get a little better. I'll tell you this is a real life story, and I think it's cool. I know the guy, so I think it's cool to say this, there is a guy in Sukha that I saw working nights and weekends for like a year or two. And he had his little bio that he was an assistant vice principal at this high school in Missouri.
Right.
Okay, cool. So, he's working at night, whatever. And you can, if you want, every day, once a day, you can post something you finished. It's sort of like a fun way, almost like being in Strava or being, in one of those workout apps where like, oh, I did my 4,000 push-ups today, whatever. So once a day, you can say like, I finished something, and I'll post in the group chat, right? So he posted this spring, finished my dissertation. So some people in the group chat were like, oh, hey man, like kind of in what? Like, what are you doing? He's like, well, I'm a assistant vice principal at this high school during the day, but at night, I've been working my PhD in software engineering. He said, I know I have like 90 minutes of kind of like brain power at night, and then I'm toast. He's like, I've already done a full day at work, and I have to use this really effectively. So that's why I jump in Sukha, turn on my camera. You can like body double if obviously neurodivergent, you know what that is. So you can like body double if you want. And he's like, so I do that, and then on the weekends I do that. And now don't get too excited because I still have to, defend my dissertation. There's another step, not just turning it in and being like, here you go, right? So it's like 2 weeks from Monday is my day with the panel, whatever. I don't have a PhD. My brother has dual PhDs from Yale. I don't have one. But I can call you doctor. You can't call me doctor. So that Monday, it was interesting that people in the group chat in the like 48 hours leading up to the weekend were like, hey, Roy, good luck with that. Hope everything goes well. You got this, buddy. And on Monday, he said nothing. He was totally quiet, to where a couple of people said, hey, anyone spoken to Roy about his dissertation defense thing today? Was that today? And Tuesday morning, he logged in and he posted, you may now call me Dr. King. And people went nuts. But it was so much in my eyes, that validation of like, he just went, this is going to be my habit. Like at night, I have 90 minutes, I guess maybe in between school, being out and like dinner time with his family, whatever. He's like, I've got 90 minutes. That's all I can budget. And that has to be my habit to do this thing. And he did it. And what are I don't know how many assistant vice principals of high schools in middle America are getting PhDs in engineering. I don't know if
in their spare time. I mean,
in their spare time after being vice principal. And he did it, but he did it because he had a habit. He's like, I'm going to pull this off. And man, I can't hit that point hard enough of just saying, I'm going to make a commitment to doing this, because I don't want to end up that 80-year-old guy or girl on the sofa scrolling my life away, double tapping my life away.
Yeah. What a great story.
Yeah, really inspiring.
I just want to ask you about one thing that may be buried in those couple of observations that you noted. You know, the tenacity of people to just keep going, keep working at stuff, and the habit, right, that to improve things every day. How important would you say it is to get feedback from others, to work with others who can give you a different perspective from what you have?
I've seen a very wide range of how people work. And I'll tell you, I would love to say, oh my God, it's so important that you have a community around, because I believe in community. I will tell you, there are some high performers I've seen in Sukha that don't really talk, don't really do anything, but they're doing impressive things, you know? Right. So I realize it's a very personal thing. And I know, like, when I was growing up, one of my favorite activities, to be very revealing, is my mom, my little brother, and I, we'd go to the library, the public library in Vienna, Virginia, and we would each leave with books from our hands up underneath our chins, like as many books as we could each carry. And I would go and read those in this blue chair upstairs where there was like a window over my shoulder. And I would just have a stack on my left, and I would just read it and stack it on the right. And I thought it was like unthinkable to me that not everyone did this, because it was like the world's secrets are in here. And like, why isn't everyone here like doing this? Like, these books are filled with fascinating stories and knowledge, right? So that for me was a very solo activity. It would be distracting on a certain level to be like continuously around other people, but I recognize there are a spectrum. So now I'm working with other people in a certain way. Like, there's that social facilitation theory. If I don't know if you've covered that in the podcast of yours that I've heard, which is that it's this measurable productivity boost that you get when you can see someone else working, and you know that you can be seen working. It's just that sense of like why people go to study hall in college. They can study in their dorm rooms alone, but there's that thing of being in that big library room with all the communal tables, and you're not really chatting. It's not like social hour. It's just kind of a feeling of like we're all in it together. And a friend who's in the Sukha pointed out to me that it's like, you know what, Nike Run Club, like there are lots of examples of this thing of just like when you see and you feel other people trying to achieve, it lifts you up. So I get that there is that thing, even though for some people it's, hey man, I do my best work alone. Totally cool.
Yeah. I had to chuckle when you were saying that. Look, I just, before I was calling you for this podcast recording, I just went to our local bookstore and look.
Oh, see?
I just need to clear my brain, so I'm clear to talk to Steve, and I just need to get rid of the stuff I was doing before. I'll go outside, get some fresh air. Oh, I'm just going to go and buy some books. So here we are. That's my book haul for today, and I ordered 2 more. I also struggle to understand why people don't just love books as much as I do. I mean, I've got books in every room in this house.
I love that you have actual printed books.
I still love printed books.
She just held up like actual books. How rare is that?
And I got free bookmarks. Like, I was like, do you want free bookmarks?
Right.
Also a British woman in the shop in just outside Amsterdam, so we had a good chat as well. But yeah, I love free bookmarks as well, so I was very happy. But yeah, I wanted to share that other, so it was funny. But I also struggle because my daughter, for example, she hates reading books. She just doesn't enjoy it.
Really?
I mean, her technical reading is very, very good. Her reading comprehension is not so good, and maybe that's why she doesn't like reading books. She loves like factual stuff, more like encyclopedia style things. And she remembers that well. She remembers anything that she sees on YouTube. And sometimes it's rubbish, but sometimes it is quite, scientific, factual.
Right.
She's 10, right? She's 10, so for her age. I always find it quite difficult to accept that she doesn't love books like I do. But then I look, I'm like, well, you are reading and you're learning in a very different style, a very different kind of way to what I do.
Yeah.
It's another example, I suppose, of what you're saying. It's quite personal, isn't it? How people like to learn. Do you want to learn in the big library, or do you want to learn in your room, in your dorm? Or
it is. And I'll tell you something funny that I saw. This goes back to the film days, which is there is an aspect of physical spaces when you talk about, I want to be in the library, I want to be here. And there's an aspect of physical spaces that I saw some really high performers, specifically writers in film, use. And there, when I was an executive at Sony and DreamWorks and Fox, right?
Yeah.
I was not a writer. I had to read a ton, right? Because you're continually getting submissions of books you could option, pitches, screenplays, spec screenplays, writing samples. Like, there's a tremendous amount of reading in that kind of job, right? So there is, when I was living in West Hollywood, across the Sunset Boulevard from the Directors Guild, like near Fairfax, there's a Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf that's very well known as being like a writer's coffee shop. You walk in there, and it's filled with people on their MacBooks, tapping away. And it is the full spectrum. There's the old corner who's writing away, and he's written 3 studio movies this year. His quote is $1 million a script, sort of thing. And then you're at one of the communal tables, and the girls next to you just got off the bus from Iowa, and they're working on a TV pilot, not really knowing what they're doing, but
Yeah, having a go.
And it was an energy in that room where I would go there to read. I would find one of the chairs there, because when you're among that crowd, sometimes it was nice to look up every now and then and just feel the energy of people working, like being in a study hall, like a co-working space, that sort of thing. And that triggered for me like a lot of calm in my mind of like, okay, we're all here together. I'm reading, I'm doing this thing. I'm not trying to do laundry right now. I'm not trying to, clean up the house or, do whatever. And it reminded me of, and this goes way back now. This is back Independence Day. When Roland and Dean would write their scripts, they would typically go to this villa in Puerto Vallarta. I've never been there. Apparently, it's a beautiful white marble villa in the hills of Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, right? So when they had to write the next one, Roland asked his assistant, hey, Joey, go rent the villa, blah, blah, right? Joey came back and was like, it's rented. I mean, it was kind of an Airbnb before there's Airbnb. It's like a vacation rental, right? And around the office, everyone's like, oh, what's going to happen? That's like their place to go write. And I asked Dean about this once. He said there was a room where like in the morning, the light came over the pool. And he said, it just inspires us. We never get in that room and think about our agents or casting problems or budget or studio notes. He's like, we just try and write something great. We just feel like we're inspired to do something. Roland called his entertainment attorney, John Deemer, who's an amazing attorney. I was like, John, buy the villa. By Monday, Roland owned a $5 million villa in Puerto Vallarta. Where the current renters went, I do not know. God bless. I'm sure they were nicely paid to be in some other villa somewhere. And they went down there. 6 weeks later, they came back with the script that became the third highest grossing movie in film history, right? That was their mental thing of like, we need to be in this physical space. I saw it again when I was working at DreamWorks with Alex Kurtzman, Bob Orsi, who were 2 very different guys. And they, when like the deadline was going to hit, we were on the little Amblin compound. DreamWorks is like at Amblin, which is inside the Universal Studios lot. Yeah. So across Lankershim, there's like the Universal Hilton, which is not a glamorous property. It's kind of like where you go with your kids the night before you go on the rides. You know what I mean? It's like, whatever. Yeah. And they would tell their assistant, hey, go rent us a room there for 2 weeks. And I'm like, they're both wealthy. They're getting paid $2 million a script. But they would go there. And it hit me once. They had met back in like high school, college. And I think for them, going to that hotel room evoked like dorm room. It put them in a mindset where they were trained to be like, we're these young scrappy writers who have to prove that we can pull this off. And we have 2 weeks to finish Transformers 2 or whatever. Yeah. And they would buckle down there. And I was like, oh, so they use that same mental trigger around space, but for them, it's dorm room. It's not villa in Puerto
Yeah.
And
sunrise, yeah.
I adopted that at home. When I started working from home, I did the mistake of, oh, well, I'm in the kitchen in the morning. The light's beautiful. I have a laptop. I'll work from there for an hour or two. I'll come upstairs to my office for a few hours. End of the day, I'll see Laura on the sofa and I'll go sit on the sofa to close out the day. And I realized it was kind of chaotic for my mind. And now I'm very disciplined about when I come upstairs, which is where you and I are chatting, my mind falls into, oh, we're going to work. We're going to code. We're going to write something. We're going to return emails. And when I leave here, I leave that stress here. Whatever that is, the pressure of you need to get this website out. You need to finish a new blog post. Yeah. It lives in this room. And it really helps me fall into that mental state when I enter. And I didn't do that before. I screwed that up, even though I had great models for it. It took me being frustrated to go, it's free. Like, you don't need anybody's app to do this. You can just say, in this place in my home, this is where I do this thing. And your brain starts to just fall in when you get there.
Yeah.
And smell is another one too. A friend of mine was a producer of Survivor, the TV show. She did a blog post for us on aromatherapy and how smell is the physical sense most closely linked to memory. People think it's sight, right? Or sometimes hearing, but it's actually smell is the most closely wired. Yeah. And she said, there's a scent that I use because now she runs like a high-end travel company. She's left Survivor, but still loves to travel. Right? So she does amazing travel stuff and has to do her blog and do her stuff. And she does all of these, like she's running an expedition to the North Pole on a Zeppelin. Where for $100,000, you can take a Zeppelin to the North Pole where it will drop you off and you can have lunch and it will bring you back.
Oh my
A little out of my price range, but sounds pretty cool. I'm just going to say.
It's like a sensible space trip.
Right, exactly.
Space trip. Yeah.
So she explained to me how she used, and she wrote a great blog post for Sukha. She used Sukha, and she was like, let me talk about like aromatherapy and how I use it. I was like, that's super cool. Hashtag learning.
Yeah.
So anyway, back to you. I'm sorry, that was a long speech. I'm back. I'll be quiet.
No, but again, it's fine. That's what we're here for. We're here to hear from you. I mean, I was just reflecting while you were showing those examples, right, about all of the different people from all the different backgrounds, different ages, different differences in the coffee shop and in the beautiful villa and in the fake dorm room. We spend so long these days, and it's correct that we do, focusing on people's differences and valuing differences. And of course, I think that's incredibly important. I mean, that's also my business to value our differences in the ways in which we consume information and use information.
Sure.
But it's so lovely what you're saying, that there's also just this commonality between all of these different people with all these different experiences and different backgrounds. And of course, there are more commonalities than this, but when you really want to do something, you've just got to get down, knuckle down and do it, build a habit, keep practicing, find the place where your flow is most likely to happen. And I think that your app is something which just sounds like it helps so many people to find that flow state and to achieve their dreams. And
you said flow state.
I did say flow state. Flow state's the dream, right? We love a flow state.
Yeah, tell me about flow states. I've heard about them. I'm wondering, what is this thing?
Flow state is just where you're doing something that you love so much and you're so into it. It makes time disappear for you. You don't notice time passing. Yeah.
So I'm sure there are some of your audience that are at home nodding, going, oh, I'm a master of flow states and all that. And there are others who are like, I've heard that term. What exactly is it? Is it cool if I just set the table for a moment about flow states?
Yeah, go ahead. Okay. Yeah.
So there was a Hungarian-American psychologist, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, who died actually, I think, 4 years ago next month. And he had a thesis. He said, high performers seem to describe these concentrated states they get into, where they do the work that makes them famous, that moves the world. They describe it in very similar ways. I want to understand that. So, like Prometheus, you want to go up, get some fire from Olympus, bring it down to the rest of us, right? So at the end of his research into athletes and artists and scientists and inventors and all these different people, like across disciplines, he said, yeah, there's something here. And he wrote the book Flow, which is the seminal work on this. It is from whence we get the term flow state. And he said the most beautiful metaphor I can find for what I discovered is we're all in the water paddling to move ourselves forward. But if you align yourself with the current, it magnifies your efforts. You get there faster, you go further. He said, there's what you just brought, Lisa, there are some common elements of people who are in flow to go, this is what it's like. And there are also common like conditions precedent that they use to get into that state, to recreate it reliably. He said, it's across disciplines. There's that famous Michael Jordan quote about when I'm in the zone, it's just me and the ball. And that idea you find across, disciplines, where it's a sense of like your whole world gets reduced down to what's the thing I need to do. And
Yeah.
Michael Jordan was saying, like, I don't even see spectators or the scoreboard or even defenders. Really, all that's important is me and controlling the ball to go where it needs to go. And there's no sense of time, as you alluded
Yeah.
to. You have a number of experiences around this, and you start to realize you do your best work in this state because you're not distracted by things, right? And I had my first, before I knew the term flow state, I had my first experience that I recognize in retrospect was a flow state, which is I was flying from Austin, Texas, where I am now, to SF to meet with my team the next day. And I wanted on the flight to illustrate this idea I had for a feature.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go into Figma and sort of mock it up and, do my best version of it, then, explain it. And there was a Alaska flight, because I know they run it nonstop, and the Wi-Fi was out. We took off and landed maybe 15 minutes later, and I thought, okay, an engine has fallen off. Like there's something really bad that happened. We're landing in Dallas, and when we're on the ground, they'll tell us, oh, by the way, we had to make an emergency landing. And then I looked at the clock, and over 2 hours and 40 minutes had gone by. I had no conception of time, none. I couldn't tell you if the drink cart had gone by. I couldn't tell you the guy next to me. I hadn't chatted with him. I had nothing, but the designs were done, which was awesome because I was kind of in my mind prepared for, I'll just race to the hotel, I'll grab a sandwich in the lobby, run up to the room and kind of finish this up for tomorrow's meeting. And instead, I called a buddy of mine. I was like, hey man, I've got a free night in SF. You want to have dinner? Which was a wonderful feeling because I like my designs and I felt in control of my night instead of being controlled by it.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, the things you brought up, I felt focused. I lost track of time. I did my best work and I felt healthier. That was magical. Of course, later you do the reading and you're like, duh, Stephen, like millions of people have done this. Smart people have written about it. Like there's a thing. And, Mihai wrote about some of the conditions precedent he found. And I hope this is helpful, for the audience listening, which is, he said, some of the things that are true is the person who gets in a flow state believes what they're doing is meaningful. I haven't seen anyone stapling papers or doing something they think is stupid get there. It has to be like, oh no, this is a really great blog post, or I'm writing my book, or I'm creating something in engineering, or I'm working on a business plan. It's something meaningful, right? He said, you have to have a way of getting feedback, like immediate feedback loop. You can't just like pour energy into a black box and then hope someday it's something. He's like, whether it's Picasso standing back from Guernica and going like, oh, this is shaping up. I can see this is becoming what I wanted, or you being able to read your thing, whatever. Like in Sukha, we have a live productivity graph. So you can literally see like how well you are focusing. And if you pick up your phone or open a website, you lose points. If you monotask, you gain points. If you don't pick up your phone and gain points. So you can watch live, how well am I doing, and get that feedback. And I think that's important. And he also writes about how as you are in this state, you have this ability to block distractions. And he said, create that however you need, but it seems really important here. And you and I have talked about this, which is what an amazing feeling it is when you say, wow, I didn't succumb to opening LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, pick your voice, scanning Reddit, whatever, your vice is. Because the end feeling is so good that hopefully you want to repeat it, and that becomes a habit. Then the next day you're like, okay, what day do I want to have? By the way, that's how I named my company. As this weird name. We had a very simple name before that was descriptive, right? We had a working version of this with a boring kind of name. And Laura, whom I met in yoga in New York, I married the girl on the mat to my left, right? We have a daily yoga practice. It's a really wonderful part of our day, feeling that sort of physical, spiritual kind of like, sense.
Yeah.
Our honeymoon, we went to Bali. It's a great place to go when you do yoga because you can do yoga and hang out with, the beach, right?
Yeah.
So on the way there, I was like, hey, you know what? The next 10 days, like no one's going to bug me. Everyone knows Puri's on his vacations, on his honeymoon, leave him alone. I was like, maybe the universe will give me some great name. The muses will sing, right? And I'll find something that's not like descriptive, like, oh, flow state app, distraction blocker, And Laura's like, I wish that for you. Good luck with that. So we got there. I said, I think something would feed my imagination is, do you mind if I speak to like 2 or 3 members today for like 5-10 minutes and just ask them what's their favorite feature of what I'm doing? Because maybe that'll like bubble up. She's like, go for it. I'm going to the beach. Like, I will see you at dinner, bye-bye. And so I spoke to 3 people who said they would, chat with me. And I tried to be very respectful. It's like, hey, I asked for 10 minutes, do you love the music? Do you love the distraction blockers we talked about? Do you love the smart assistant that keeps you off your phone, whatever? And the third guy, when I went into the wrap up of like, okay, well, it's been 8 minutes and I just want to thank you so much. He's like, Steven, you asked the wrong questions. I was like, okay, well, what was the right question? You should have asked me why I pay you. I was like, I don't even collect a salary for this. Like, we charge $10 a month. It's just enough to pay the servers because I think it's a cool thing and people should have it, right? So I was like, okay, but I'll take the bait. Why do you pay me? He said, in the year or 2 I've been using this, I find now I have 2 kinds of days. At 3 o'clock, I can be playing with my kids. They're 2 and 4. Or at 6 o'clock, I can be sort of down on myself. Like, I was busy all day, but I didn't get the important stuff done. And he said, I realized the difference between those 2 days is, did I remember to open your app that morning and run it in the background while I worked?
Wow.
So I pay you because my kids are not going to be 2 and 4 forever. And I was like, it's so more emotional than anything I've ever thought of about what we do. So of course, we go to dinner. I tell this to Laura. I was like, I spoke to this dude today who's like more articulate about what I'm doing than I am, right? And she's like, yeah, that's really good. Like, you should hire him as a copywriter. So we were going to bed and she's, we're brushing our little teeth. And she looked at me, she goes, in yoga, we hear all these Sanskrit terms, prana, your life force, and karma, and your dharma, and your duty, and stuff like that. That dude, the universe spoke to you through that dude. You wanted that. Here you go. He described Sukha, that feeling of happiness when you're self-fulfilled, when you're in your lane, doing the thing you're meant to do, and you're good at it. You're in control of it. You can do it with ease. She's like, wow, there's your name. And I looked at my phone. I looked up the Sukha Company, the happiness company. The website was available. Bought it for $14. And that was the name of our company, the happiness company.
Congratulations. What a lovely, lovely story.
Yeah, so I realize now that's really what we're trying to do, is give people the opportunity to say, hey man, I want to be in control. I want to feel good. It's not about any particular feature. It's more, hey, when you want to get in control of your life and like have a certain kind of feeling at the end of the day, let's help you get to that feeling of being, in the zone.
Although you did do stealth working on your honeymoon. You just dressed it up nicely.
Well, I love what I do. So
yeah, I'm with you.
One thing was like, I had to do my accounting work. That would not happen.
No. So one last question, Stephen. So if all of the team leads who are listening to this podcast would solemnly swear, right, whatever tip you tell me next, Stephen, I am going to do because I want to be more productive, what would you advise them to do? The top tip from Stephen.
It's so easy to answer that one. It is about intention, and it is every morning when you begin with intention. Say, what is it I want to do? And if that thing is, I want to, be focused, or I want to achieve this thing, or I want to be healthy, or whatever, every morning remind you that one thing. You're not going to remember 17 things. You're not going to be able to do. You're not Superman. You're not multitasking. Do it. And that will lead to better habits. All the things we talked about flow from starting your morning, remembering my intention is to be this person.
Yeah. I'm so relieved that I do it most mornings, not every morning. Hey. When I don't do it, it's exactly what you said. My day is much more difficult and much less productive. I journal it. I
really?
Get out of my head and I journal. Yeah, this is what I have to do today.
Cool.
At all costs, this is what I'm going to do. And it just there's something between the act of thinking and writing. There's something in that connection that just gets it stuck in my head. That's my personal.
I feel the same way. Yeah. Maybe it's just the generation we are, but there is something about like taking your hand and writing it, that's different than dictating to Siri or like talking into your chat GPT. There's something about like writing it out where you go, this is more real.
Yeah. And then crossing it off at the end of the day.
Feels great, right? Doesn't it?
Crossing off, yeah, crossing off.
That was
great.
Yeah.
That's an element of flow state.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
Thanks so much, Stephen, for sharing a glimpse into your life. Yeah, it's been at least fascinating, and I'm sure helpful for people listening. Thanks so much.
Thank you for having me. Okay, bye everyone.
You're most welcome. Have a good rest of your day.